As I mentioned earlier in the program, it may be just a few days out from Christmas, but the world of news and politics sure isn't slowing down. To chat through some of the week's top stories, I'm joined now by Nationals MP, former Deputy Prime Minister, the great Barnaby Joyce. He's in Townsville this evening. And Barnaby, thanks so much for joining us. I want to start with the reason you're actually in Queensland. You attended a service yesterday to pay tribute to the police officers killed in that horrific shooting in Queensland. You know that part of the Western Downs incredibly well. I'm sure you'd be as shocked as any decent person would be. How was the memorial?
Well, for Constable McCrow and Constable Arnold, it's incredibly, Matthew Arnold, it's incredibly sad. These are two young people. Two incredibly beautiful young people who were, they weren't just shot, they were executed. You've got to remember these people walked out while they were alive and shot them on the ground. You know, that's disgusting. And we all need police. They protect us, they keep us safe. I'm still at work. I finish off tonight. That's why I'm just sort of finished. That's why I'm in the relaxed garb. And it's really important that you not only go to the service in Brisbane, but you go to the service in Mackay, which is where I was, and Townsville, and the other areas and right across Australia, all policemen and women saying, well, you know, these people paid the supreme sacrifice, so you can be safe. You know, these are the people when something happens in your house or something happens in your family or something happens down the street, you expect them to turn up and be totally brave, and these people were. And not only trying to start a fire and incinerate another constable, and they shot another one. I mean, wow. You got to show up and show your respect, and it was great to do that with Andrew Wilcox, and it speaks for itself, as they say. It speaks for itself.
Yeah, as indeed it does. Now, there have been calls for more gun regulation in the wake of all of this, and the Prime Minister confirmed that it's going to be considered by National Cabinet next year. I mean, I'm actually a person who believes there should be a register of the people who should never have guns, not necessarily a register of people who have them, but it's an interesting debate. Where's your take on all of this?
Well, I've got a gun licence, and you know, I use it as it's work tool. It's like a shovel or anything else. If I have to put down a beast, I can't strangle it or walk out of the dam and cut its throat. No. I need a rifle for the humane disposal of animals, and also I do recreate with it. You know, if I can do it by myself, I don't need someone else to join me like I do in a game of tennis or in play cricket. I can go by myself, and really most of the time you go out, you don't shoot anything. You just want to be by yourself and enjoy nature, and see if you shoot a pig, you shoot a pig. But I'm a law-abiding citizen, and 99.9% of gun owners are law-abiding citizens. It's very important, Gary, being a Queenslander yourself, that we understand the Weapons Act of Queensland in Section 10, Part 10B, I think it is, and also in 14, I think it's B, Part 2. You can check me on that. It actually talks about psychological and physical assessments. So the question has to be asked, Gary, is whether the police have the resources to do what's actually in the Act. Now, I'm sure if they do, people are, you know, on the internet and conspiracy theory sites, bells should start ringing. We need the resources to see actually who's reading this rubbish. And if they've got a firearm, you have to say, mate, if you believe the world's being controlled by former Prince Philip or something, and there's some grand conspiracy, I don't think you should own a rifle. But you don't want to go to law-abiding citizens and say, I presume you're all criminals, because they're not.
Exactly. You know, and I was in the Parliament, in fact, I was sworn in sort of a couple of days after the Port Arthur massacre. I was there for those discussions, and we talked about a prohibited persons register, a list of bad people who should never have a gun. But I believe that all of that has become a bit of an issue. I am actually worried that the Prime Minister thinks it's going to be great. Let's have a list of all the law-abiding people. So I just think we just need to calmly know, as you say, 99.9% of gun owners are good. If you think you can take guns off good people and it'll keep other good people safe, that's not the answer. It's the bad ones. There's no red flags of these people, according to the Queensland government today. So this whole thing was never, ever going to be fixed by keeping notes, I guess.
Well, it's in the Act. Give the police the resources to research the people who might be a problem. I'm sure they'll welcome those extra resources.
Yeah.
It's already in the Weapons Act of
Exactly.
Queensland. It's already there.
All right, that's good to know. Now, moving on, let's talk about Penny Wong's China visit. I mean, there's talk that we may well soon see some relaxing of some of those trade bans. They've crippled many of our regional industries. I mean, how hopeful are you about this?
Well, you know, we have to also have a reality check of exactly what's happened. Minister Wang Yi visited, wait for it,
Yep.
the Solomons, we don't go there, Fiji, Kiribati, Vanuatu, Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea, virtual meetings with the Federated States of Micronesia and the Cook Islands. And I remember reading about a gentleman by the name of Zhaofeng Yin, who's at the Guangdong Institute of Strategic Studies, I think, fellow researcher there. And he says, well, we've got to, you've got to understand, you don't need to be anxious. Of course we're anxious because that arc surrounds Australia. And our families and our forebears fought for and understand what happened in the Second World War. If you encircle Australia, we're gone. And of course we're going to be anxious about that. And we're going to ask people why this intense interest in the islands that would block off our trade routes. And I hope your listeners understand that. That's why we're anxious. And we've got to make sure that our first job is to keep you safe, to give your children and grandchildren the same rights and liberties that you have. And we can only do that. I don't think China would ever invade, but I think that you've got to make sure you don't put yourself in a position where you're weak, where you can be basically exploited, diminished and bullied into becoming a sort of quasi-vassal state. That's the issue that concerns me. So I welcome Penny Wong going over, Minister Penny Wong, but this has got to be done in a sober form that clearly understands not just the rhetoric, but the actions.
Yeah, and I get it. Australia's got to stand up for Australia because China's certainly going to stand up for China. I mean, let's face it, China and India, between them, every week there's a new coal-fired power station being built. I mean, we have to talk about energy. The federal government, they've struck this $8 billion deal with the New South Wales government to connect the Snowy Hydro project to the electricity grid. In exchange, the New South Wales government is going to support Labor's coal price caps. This is an economic puzzle that is going to, well, frankly, be missing a few pieces somewhere down the track, I think.
Well, let's fill in a few of those pieces. Do you think these predominantly overseas companies that come in, build the wind farms, transmission lines, do you think they do it for charity or out of idle curiosity? They do it to make money, make money. And the way they do it is have a deemed rate of return on the transmission lines. They get subsidies in the past from wind towers. They get a crazy pricing mechanism which only sells power in 5-minute blocks. So, of course, they can supply that. They can't supply 24/7, 365 days of the year. No, but they can supply 5 minutes. And guess who pays? You do. You pay. You are the sucker in the end. You are the bunny in the headlight who pays. And when we get these, now they're going to put them out to sea. We've got towns that are absolute riot because they're saying we are turned into industrial park. Now, no one's suggesting they put wind towers off Manly or off Bondi because Sydney would lose their mind over that. But they put them out in the country, and what we're seeing now is we are making our grid insecure. And forget the rhetoric, it'll all be so cheap because it's wind and it's free. Have a look at your power bill. There is the fact. That is the cost. And if you want that to get dearer, keep shutting down your coal-fired power stations. You know, this government's going to have oversight in April when they, wait for it, blow Liddell up. Not figuratively, literally. Put, gelignite around it, blow it up. Guess what will happen to your power price after that?
Yeah, exactly right. Less coal and gas in the system, the price can only but go up. And